allowing authorities to detain and deport migrants without the right to appeal.
It's time for the A.S. Show's Opinion. Well, hey, Dirk, how are you?
Yeah, Trace, I'm doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Cannot complain. Everything's looking lovely. So what do you
Nobody wants
got
to hear
here
if you
going?
do complain.
Yeah. What do you got going on here, man?
Well, we're going to take a look at the, rest of that video for this corruption series to see what these other countries are doing with their immigration problems, and something that looks like Trump might follow in some of the same footsteps, right? He's leaning that way, and I support it fully. The third part of this series is going to be where, we show kind of what the U.S. has done and the past administration has dropped the ball on. So, yeah.
All right,
We'll
should be
take a look at
interesting
this,
for
and,
sure.
we'll throw in some opinion here along the way.
All right.
Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me, brother.
All right. Well, you don't have to be so hard to get along with.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
All right.
Now, let's talk about the Netherlands, another country with a long history of welcoming migrants. For decades, the Netherlands was seen as one of Europe's most open societies. It accepted people from its former colonies, such as Suriname, and actively recruited workers from countries like Turkey and Morocco during the 20th century. Fast forward to 2024, and the Netherlands is now facing what some are calling a migration crisis. The housing market is at breaking point, with not enough affordable housing to go around. Public services, including healthcare and education, are struggling to keep up with the growing demand. It's no surprise, then, that around 40,000 asylum seekers arrived in the Netherlands last year, straining a system that's already stretched thin. This shift in sentiment has opened the door for far-right leader Geert Wilders. After decades of trying, Wilders finally led his Party for Freedom, PVV, to victory in the 2023 elections. His anti-immigration message resonated with a significant portion of the Dutch population, and he wasted no time in implementing some of the strictest asylum policies in Dutch history. So, what does the Wilders-led government want to achieve? Wilders has called for a 0% asylum policy, meaning no new asylum seekers would be allowed into the Netherlands. He also wants the country to leave the EU's asylum agreement entirely, following in the footsteps of Denmark, which negotiated an opt-out from the EU's common asylum policy in 2022. But the Netherlands isn't stopping at asylum seekers. The government is also cracking down on international students and migrant workers. In 2024, new regulations were introduced to limit the number of spots available for foreign students at Dutch universities, and employers are now required to provide housing for non-EU workers. Another major issue, and one of the most talked about problems, like in many other European countries, is the Islamization of the country. Hungary and Geert Wilders view Muslims and Islam as a significant threat. In fact, Wilders has adopted a completely anti-Muslim stance, which has received widespread criticism globally. As mentioned in his party's manifesto, he plans to ban the Quran, Islamic schools, and mosques in the country. What's the motivation behind these measures? The housing crisis is a major factor. Many Dutch citizens are frustrated by the fact that asylum seekers and migrants are often given priority when it comes to social housing. Wilders and his party have tapped into this frustration, pushing a message that positions immigration as a threat to Dutch society and culture. One of the most controversial policies under the new government is the postponement of family reunifications for asylum seekers until adequate housing is secured. This has been met with great criticism from human rights groups who believe that it violates European law by keeping families apart for prolonged periods. But for the Dutch government, the priority is clear: reduce the strain on the system, even if it means bending the rules. This tougher stance on migration in the Netherlands mirrors a broader trend across Europe, where governments are taking increasingly hardline positions on immigration in response to public pressure. But the big question remains: will these measures actually solve the underlying issues? The housing crisis, economic challenges, and cultural integration are complex problems that may not be easily fixed by simply closing the borders. Finally, let's shift our focus eastward to Hungary, where the government has adopted some of the toughest immigration policies in all of Europe. Under the leadership of Viktor Orbán, Hungary has gone from being overwhelmed by the 2015 migration crisis to becoming a virtually closed country when it comes to immigration. In 2015, at the zenith of the migrant crisis, Hungary saw over 390,000 asylum seekers flood across its borders. Makeshift camps sprang up, and resources were pushed to the brink. Orbán responded with a radical approach. He built a heavily fortified fence along Hungary's southern border, equipped with motion sensors and cameras. But it wasn't just about physical barriers. Hungary also passed laws that criminalized illegal border crossings, allowing authorities to detain and deport migrants without the right to appeal. By 2023, Hungary had reduced illegal border crossings by 99%. The country had also virtually shut down its asylum system, with only 31 asylum applications submitted in 2023, a staggering 94% drop since 2019. This is due in large part to Hungary's embassy procedure, which requires asylum seekers to submit their applications at Hungarian embassies abroad, a policy that has been widely criticized by the European Court of Justice for violating migrants' rights. But why is Orbán so opposed to immigration? For Hungary's government, the answer is simple: national sovereignty and cultural preservation. Orbán has repeatedly stated that he believes Muslim migrants threaten Hungary's Christian identity and cultural values. He has framed immigration as a battle for the country's future, and his hardline stance has earned him praise from far-right movements across Europe. But Orbán's policies haven't come without a cost. In June of 2023, the European Court of Justice ruled that Hungary's asylum policies were illegal, imposing a €200 million fine on the country. Orbán has openly defied the ruling, refusing to change Hungary's laws or pay the fine. This has put Hungary on a collision course with the European Union, raising questions about the future of EU cohesion. What's more, Hungary is now joining forces with the Netherlands in calling for an opt-out from the EU's asylum policies. This move could have significant implications for the future of the European Union, as more countries may follow suit. Italy and Poland, for example, are already showing signs of aligning with Hungary's stance on immigration.
Almost a decade on, the open door is shutting. Germany has announced that it's implementing new border checks to stop migrants coming in.
So, where does this leave Europe as a whole? Spain, the Netherlands, and Hungary are just the tip of the iceberg. Across the continent, countries are grappling with the challenge of balancing national interests with humanitarian responsibilities. As public sentiment hardens, governments are feeling the pressure to close their borders and prioritize their own citizens over newcomers. But what happens if more countries opt out of the EU's asylum policies? The Schengen area, which allows for free movement across much of Europe, could be dismantled. This would represent a fundamental shift in the way Europe operates, turning back the clock on decades of progress toward greater integration and cooperation. And let's not forget the broader geopolitical implications. The rise of anti-immigration policies in Europe could strain relations with countries outside the EU, particularly in Africa and the Middle East, where many of the migrants are coming from. Europe may find itself increasingly isolated on the global stage, with fewer allies willing to cooperate on issues like trade, security, and climate change. Ultimately, Europe is at a crossroads. The decisions made today about immigration will shape the continent's future for decades to come. Will Europe continue down the path of closed borders and national isolation, or will it find a way to reconcile its humanitarian values with the realities of the 21st century? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear: the immigration debate is far from over. Countries across Europe are now closing their doors, and the consequences of these decisions will ripple across the continent for years to come. Stay tuned. This is a story that's just beginning to unfold.
Yeah, this is I mean, it's just a real shame of what's going on, and it's obviously not only here; it's across the globe.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It is. It was begun under Obama.
And what's happened during this last administration is a crime. And there are so many lines that have been crossed, and Biden and Harris have let them be crossed. And Mayorkas, I mean, he's guilty of sin. And we need to right the wrong. That's all there is to it. We need to right the wrong. And everybody now wants to say, well, it's too expensive. Well, what's it costing us to keep them here? You know, there's costs on both sides of this. At least when you deport people, it's like selling a car that's costing you a lot of money maintaining it. Once you get rid of it, it doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
Or we need to get countries to pay for their people.
Well, they're not going to do that. So,
Well,
yeah.
You know what?
Send them home.
Go ahead.
No, just send them home.
Yeah, that's
Right?
all there is to it. Yeah,
Well, go ahead, brother.
yeah, they just got to they got to go.
Well, you know, the ones that are saying it's too expensive are the ones that want them here. That's all. It's not too expensive. Again, it's a fraction of the cost of keeping them here.
Well, yeah, you can push numbers around. You know that. You can push numbers around to make them say whatever you want them to say. But the key takeaway here is going to be the next video in which we show what the government and non-government organizations are doing and the money and effort they're putting into bringing immigrants here. It's astounding because I don't see them running around helping Americans that have been hit hard by natural disasters or anything else. But we're trying to save the rest of the world, and we're going to get into the how anti-American these people are, and
yeah, absolutely, brother. And then when you look at the maps that show where they're placing these folks, these illegal aliens, right? They're gerrymandering in the worst possible way.
They know what they're doing.
It's not the government doing it. Oh, gee. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Well,
this is good stuff.
Somebody's got their hand up the puppet's rear end. We always know who that is. But anyways, all right. Well, hey, I hope everybody really paid attention to what's going on out there. And it's changing. It really is changing. I'm just hoping we follow the hard line that these other countries have, and we make it right.
Yeah, I firmly believe and agree with you. All right, brother, that's fantastic. Fantastic stuff. So
I agree.
Anyhow, wrap it up.
Wrap. Put a bow.
Yep. See ya.
Thanks for joining us. See ya.
Click like, subscribe. Take care.
If you feel like it. If you like.